Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here today. Kurt and I oftentimes talk about how much we travel. He showed his map. Last year I stayed 195 nights in Marriott's. Seen the good, the bad. Jeffrey, how are you? Good, and as Kurt pointed out, the dysfunctional. And I'd like to discuss this morning with you what private clubs that are succeeding are doing. I'm very bullish on the private club industry. I really feel, and that's not, irrational exuberance on my part where I just think it's going to happen. We're seeing lots and lots of private clubs succeeding. And we're seeing them do certain things over and over again. And we're seeing clubs that are not succeeding having things that in fact dictate why they're not being successful. And so I'm going to walk you through a number of these issues, answer a few questions with you that you might have. We call this the rise of the phoenix. There are many people who are saying the private club industry is dead and that golf is dead. In the past 3 years, and I purposefully use 3 years because of the economic times, our company's been involved with private clubs where we've sold $300 million in initiation fees alone. $300 million in the past 3 years. People will pay initiation fees to join clubs. They want to be members of private clubs. They're excited about the invitation to join a private club, and many clubs are in fact successful. Here's the negatives. Joe Bedditz, as Kurt pointed out, is one of my closest friends. Some slides, some of the newest statistics from the National Golf Foundation. You're seeing that the private club industry since 2008 has contracted by about 10%. And you can see on the left-hand side, there's been almost 50 new openings. And the good news is almost 60 clubs have gone from semi-private or public to private. The right-hand side's a little scary. You can see that there have been 78 clubs close, and 411 clubs have converted from private to public. I keep hearing clubs say, gosh, let's go semi-private. Semi-private's like semi-pregnant. You either are or you aren't. And typically when you're going semi-private, it's the work on its way to public to closed. And so we're trying to help clubs not make that type of decision with regard to the solution being opening up their doors to the industry. You can see the course closures, lots. Lots of private clubs are closing. Course openings, not very many. If you're in the construction business right now, designing golf courses, etc., building golf courses, it's a little scary. We respect that and understand that. Just to give you an example of what's going on. Since 2008, we're seeing these certain things happening. The private supply is diminishing. Private club members are going down. It's a tragedy. That does not have to happen. And we're here today. I'm here today to specifically give you ideas of how that can be changed. And initiation fees, crazily, are plummeting. Now, there needed to be a reevaluation of initiation fee. There's no question. Particularly refundable memberships, some that we're selling for $100,000 with 80% refundability. In my judgment, that's really a $20,000 initiation fee club, and if you look at the net process of it. So many clubs are, in fact, reevaluating their initiation fees, but many are going so crazy. $100,000 initiation fees going down to $8,000, $10,000. Wasn't there some number in between there we could have stopped as with regard to going so low? And we're going to talk about initiation fees and how to keep them and to establish them and have people realize the discipline of an initiation fee. They do not have to happen. Average members of the club, it's staying about, everybody's kind of treading water. Getting 42 new members, losing 37. Losing 36, gaining 25. It's kind of that treading water that's going on. Very few clubs are surging in member growth. And we're helping clubs to evaluate repeatable, sustainable practices to keep that number where you're getting 47 but only losing 23. And it's kind of like losing weight. You want to, which I'm not very good at, you want to establish a new weight, stay there. Work your way down, establish weight, continue, and not have the fluctuations that go on. Financial health, we're seeing lots of clubs that are very proud of themselves just to cash flow. I've seen standing ovations at private club annual meetings when they cash flow. This depreciation thing, I guess they don't think that's really something they should pay close attention to, but financial health is about even in the clubs across the United States. We're seeing doors opening, and we're seeing member dues skyrocketing up. Seeing member dues going up and up and up. It is, in fact, in my less than humble professional judgment, the fallacy of the private club industry is the escalation of dues. My club is my life. I had the privilege of working with the Olympic Club Foundation with some business with the president of the foundation. His name is John Trouth. And on our phone call, he said to me on the phone, "Steve, I cannot imagine my life without the Olympic Club in it." And I stopped John real quick and I said, "John, think about that. Do you understand how powerful of a phrase that is? And how different it is today? If you say to your members of a private club, can you imagine your life without the club in it?" Lots of them go, "Yeah, I'll be fine. No problem. No problem at all. I've got lots of things going on outside of my life." The world has changed. I'm pointing out the obvious, but sometimes we have to point out the obvious with regard to how much people used to use their clubs and what business model made sense with that type of usage and expectation versus the world we live in today. Private clubs were used to be an enormous part of your life. Remember, usage was high and all events were sold out. You had a hard time, in fact, getting to the club and utilizing it. Tea times were something that you just really had a hard time getting, and so people were very much active at their club. My feeling is, and why I'm so bullish on clubs, think about the life we're in right now. If you're not retired yet, where are we? We're either at work, at home, or where? Where are we going to get together and share conversations? There's not that many places to show up and get together with your friends and commonality. The private club tends to be that location. So people still want to have privacy. They still want to have that confidentiality of relationships. And so private clubs have a unique and continued opportunity to capitalize on that. But private clubs are now a much smaller percentage of a member's lifestyle. And many times we're still asking people to pay 100% dues when it used to be 80 to 90% of their life. Now they're paying 100% dues and it's 20 to 30 to 40% of their life. And so they're reevaluating whether they're going to be members of the club or not. And primarily it's because of a lack of experience. It's because of a lack of connection at the club. To me, those are the two critical elements of a successful club in combination with everything that Kurt was talking about. We used to market to envy. It used to be something we envied that a person contemplated the aspiration of joining a private club, and it was such distinct accomplishment to in fact do so. Private clubs used to have the best of everything. Best conditioned golf courses, sometimes the only swimming pool. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to impress you. I live in Manhattan, Kansas. And in Manhattan, Kansas, town of 50,000 people, the club was the best pool, the best tennis courts, the best food, the best golf professional, etc. Well, our town of only 50,000 people now has a really fantastic pool in town and beautiful tennis courts and etc. And people are thinking, I no longer have to join the club to get many of those things. We have 2 public golf courses that have opened in town. One is highly acclaimed. So people are like, gosh, I don't need to have the club experience. For golf, it's also in town. And so we've lost some of the monopoly that we used to have with regard to what we were. Private clubs were not for everybody. I don't understand why all of a sudden we've decided in the private club industry that private club membership is for everybody. It's not. And I don't know why we continue from a pricing standpoint attempt to make it available to everyone. I don't want to stand here in front of you as an elitist. I don't want to stand here in front of you saying that I believe in discrimination of anybody whatsoever. But private club life is not for everyone. And we commonly talk at board meetings about how can we save the senior member, the guy who's been here for 37 years at the club and the dues are too high for him. What are we going to do to save them? I have the utmost sympathy and empathy for an individual who may not have kept enough money to in fact become a longtime member and continue their relationship. But we have to, in fact, discover the fact that private club life is not for everyone. Not everyone can afford a private club. But commonly we find ourselves trying to change the club to the person who economically is the least capable, and I don't mean the senior member, but the least capable of being a member of our club. The brand of private clubs was very powerful. I'm embarrassed to say I'm a golf professional. Susie's a golf professional. But when I was a former club professional, everybody wanted to wear a logo shirt. Gosh, I sold the heck out of logo shirts. What happened to the logo shirt of today? Unless you're at some of the most elite clubs in the country, people are no longer wearing that logo shirt as much as they used to because they're not as proud of their relationship, not as proud of the club. I see your logo shirt, very much from when you traveled, I see. But private club used to be a point of pride. If you're proud of something, you want to invite someone to participate in it with you. If you're not, it's quite difficult to suggest to someone that they be a member of your club if you find yourself not being particularly prideful in the club experience that you have. Private clubs now, we tend to see the marketing of desperation. It's amazing what we're seeing out there as to the lack of discipline, slashing of initiation fees. If you can fog a mirror and the check clears, congratulations, a pretty good chance you're getting in. I was just at a $100,000 initiation fee club, not in this area of the country. $100,000 initiation fee club. There was an application on the table, had a check attached. One sponsor needed two. Someone said, we don't have a second sponsor. One of the guys in the room said, will the check clear? The guy said, I believe it will. He said, heck, I'll sponsor him. Of course, anybody knows me and my candor. I said, you should be embarrassed of yourself. You have no idea who this is, but the check clears and you're going to sponsor that membership? Well, yeah, there's $100,000 attached. We are not disciplined anymore with regard to the application process. We're seeing deferred capital projects. The good old days of waiting lists to get in have been replaced by sell lists to get out. The reputations of private clubs with regard to money that they owe people on refundable memberships has been greatly harmed. Open solicitation to anyone, outside events, and I'm not describing the private clubs that are in this room, but I'm describing more just generally across the United States what we're seeing. An ever-increasing outside income being demanded and asked for in weddings, of non-members, of golf events, etc. Any possible way to get revenues into the club to replace the dues and initiation fees that they desperately need from new members in the club. For those of you my age, remember the Mad Magazine? And people always started to think that this was a cyclical situation. Oh, this is all going to change. We don't have to worry yet. And private club leaders were convinced they were immune from the concepts of membership recruitment. I mean, it made the hair in the back of your neck go up. I try to never use the word membership campaign. Rather negative, message. More of an initiative. More of something that the club is doing that's not a campaign, more of a repeatable, sustainable. More people will always want to join our private club than leave. In the good old days, if you were the membership chairman, it was the easiest committee there ever was to chair. Because it was this magic door that was always going in. Every single month, the membership committee report sounded like this. We have 11 applications, 1 resignation. I move, I second, finance committee report. What did you do to get those 11 members? Nothing. They're all just standing out front, wanting to come into the club. Now, the committee report sounds this way. We have 3 leave of absence requests, 9 resignations, 2 applications. I move, I second, finance committee report. And then we talk about what money we don't have at the club. To chair the membership committee at a private club, you need to have missed 1 board meeting and you become the membership chairman. If you miss 2 board meetings, you become the president of the club. As Kurt pointed out, it's very difficult now to get people to be committee members, to be board members, because it's a rather thankless job and it's a quite encompassing relationship. We're going to talk about governance a bit, but clearly clubs need to be proactive. It's been such a reactive industry, and these reactions that private clubs have made sometimes have been irreparable, have really done extraordinary harm as they've thrown that spaghetti against the wall, hoping a few strands stick. Many times they've just ruined the wall. And none of the spaghetti that was thrown was effective or efficient for the club. Just came back from Washington, D.C. I've been to Washington, D.C. about 100 times, never with my family on a vacation. Went there, so became a little poignant as we were going through. And we were at the Jefferson Memorial, and this was up on the in the Jefferson Memorial if you've ever been there. And I was reading all the quotes, and I found this one to be quite dynamic, and you're going to hear part of it. I'm not an advocate for frequent changes, but laws and institutions must go hand in hand with progress of human mind. And they're reading this thinking, gosh, Mr. Jefferson's talking about the private club industry. He's talking about what people should be contemplating. Continuing on, becomes more developed and more enlightened as new discoveries are made, new truths discovered in manners with the changes of institutions must also keep pace with the times. We have not kept pace with the times. We are behind in so many practices with regard to the outside world. And it's catching up with us. The next one I went to was, I'd always seen e pluribus unum, had no idea exactly what it meant, until I watched a 13-minute film, and they talked about it specifically. Out of many, one. I thought, that's private clubs. That's private clubs. We sit there and we talk about all these individuals, but every single time I have a relationship with a private club, I'm privileged that I don't really know anybody there, so I'm not on an agenda to get someone, help someone. I'm there because I want the club to succeed. I want the one entity to succeed, to flourish for the long term. We oftentimes hear these are my percentages. 10% of all your members are too wealthy for the club they're at. And they're the expectations they have of what they would like to see happen, and how many times a person has said, you know, if we just need to raise the dues another $100 a month, let's raise them. I mean, Chris, you can afford it, can't you? And I mean, and if a guy can't afford another $100 a month, do we want him? Oftentimes, there's people who are too wealthy for the club. 10% are not wealthy enough, constantly complaining about how much the member guests cost, the buffet, etc. 80% are perfectly suited financially for the club. Who do we tend to listen to? The two small percentages. They tend to be quite influencing. Now, if you're going to listen to a percentage, listen to the more wealthy percentage versus the less wealthy percentage. But we find ourselves being influenced by these complainers of the issues, etc., that many times are illogical and not, in fact, going to be healthy to the club for the long term. Out of many, one. Kurt did a great job talking about governance. I'm going to give it just a few seconds. But we see a lot of private clubs out there who have very poor governance models, as Kurt pointed out to you very well. Successful clubs depend upon professionals, not boards or committees, for their experience. Private clubs, please, ladies and gentlemen, let your managers manage. They're superb. They have done a great job. Their education has been extraordinary. Golf professionals, golf course superintendents. If they can't do it, get rid of them. Do them a favor. Do yourself a favor. But please, set standards. Monitor standards. Share with them your satisfaction or your dissatisfaction. But the most successful clubs are setting these standards. And as Bob Dedman once said, one of the best lines in the industry, the private club business is run like nobody's business because it's nobody's business. And you many times would never run the business that you are so successful. And the reason you are successful as businessmen and businesswomen is because of how you've run your businesses. And then you see the decisions that go on in the boardroom. And I'm not going to overdo this because Kurt did already with regard to sharing with you common good business practices. But I beg private clubs to let their management team manage and set standards and monitor them and share with them your satisfaction or your dissatisfaction. The private club industry doesn't think outside the box. They don't allow you to think outside the box. You know, my favorite is when I love the guy who starts to climb out of it and says, oh, no, I'm going back in the box. If I've been successful in the private club industry as a consultant, it's because I'm not afraid of thinking outside the box. I discuss with private clubs things they must hear. Sometimes they're uncomfortable. Things that they must contemplate and thinking outside of the box. Thank you for helping me. I'm so sorry. But it's an industry that is so steadfast on its old traditions that it's unwilling to, in fact, have outside the box thinking. Ladies and gentlemen, the private club industry is so afraid of making wrong decisions, they're making no decisions. And so we're seeing clubs that need to bat outside the box thinking, reconfiguring initiation fees, not slashing them, not taking them down to zero, but reconfiguring them. Making sure that in fact you have different initiation fees between different membership classifications. Commonly we'll have a club that has a $50,000 initiation fee for someone who's 40 and above. And then we'll have someone who is joining at age 36 having to pay $50,000 ultimately. Well, I'm 58, and my son's 35. He's a pilot for Southwest Airlines. Economically, he's doing fine. I've beat him so far. But the club's going to say to him that he should pay the same initiation fee that I should pay. That ultimately he's going to have to pay that $50,000, but when he turns age 40, by gosh, we want the balance between that $27,000 you paid at age 40. No. You should only join a country club once. Pay that initiation fee up front if it's $27,000 because you are in fact 36 years old and it's $50,000 for a big boy or big girl. When that person, as he or she ages, you sing happy birthday to them, and their dues go up. When they turn age 40, they owe no residual balance. Private clubs need to recalculate their initiation fee relationships with regard to classifications. We have many private clubs that have one membership classification, you either are or you aren't. And clearly those clubs are struggling because of the consumer today wanting to have different relationships, with the club. New membership categories I've just described. Weekday memberships, very successful. It takes the place of the senior membership. Lower dues on Tuesdays through Fridays. What is a person who's retired? Tuesday is Saturday, Wednesday is Saturday, Thursday is Saturday, Friday is Saturday. And so instead of calling that a senior membership, you call it weekday, and you move them from the more busy weekends to the lower dues during the weekdays. Individual memberships. Single membership. Raise your hand if you're married. Okay, now raise your hand if you're single. See, these statistics, folks, these statistics are illogical in the new world. But you see, we are all typically us 50 and above. I got married when I was 20. At age 58, my children are now 35 and 31. My oldest son just got married at age 35. I got married at 20. Said to my wife, you want to have kids? Well, let's have kids. We're going to have everybody else have a kid. Let's have kids. Not everybody's getting married. Not everybody's having children. And so what we find ourselves doing is looking at ourselves as to how much ever married and thinking, well, everybody gets married. We don't need to have a single membership. Of course you do. Of course you need to speak to the new consumer who's not getting married, or when they get divorced, they're not getting remarried. You've had many, many members quit your club or not join it out of principle alone, because the dues obligation to a single person is in fact the same as a family member. Now, I know every treasurer that's in this room today because you're beginning to twitch. Whenever I start seeing noticeable twitches, I know that the treasurer is in the room, because when I start to talk about things that have lower dues, they start to think, wait, Steve, we've got 42 members at our club who are single right now, who are paying full family dues. Thanks for the really warm, fuzzy feeling about this, but we can't lower their dues. So we know it's wrong, but we cannot financially afford to make that proper decision. And so they don't. So many private clubs will in fact have people who resign from the club without actually telling you the true reason, or not join your club because you don't have a single membership. Individual memberships where a wife or spouse does not play golf are commonly successful. Limited golf memberships where people are coming out and asking for a lower dues relationship and paying lower dues. Now again, there's noticeable twitching going on with even presidents in the room right now. And you know why? You're under a business model that has so few members at your club that you cannot afford to be proactive. As you start to talk about these things, the financial ramifications would be so devastating, and you don't have enough people utilizing the club to in fact make some of these types of decisions. So you do not. As one club president said to me, what a great idea, Steve, but not while I'm president. We commonly see that. Capital improvements are not being done at private clubs. We are seeing family orientation needs. I ask many clubs, are you a family club? And they say yes. And I say, are you a family club? They go, not really, not really. But they want to say they're a family club. But their dress codes that they have, the programming or lack thereof of family and children and women, etc., is not there, but they pretend that they're a family club. Food and beverage modifications. This casual dining, continues to be in. It gets more casual and more casual and more casual. But we tend to have some of our older members continuing to ask and demand for more formal dining when casual is taking over. And this technology thing, it's not a fad. It really is here. And if I see one more sign that says no cell phones at the club, do you understand how economically successful you all are? And the schools for which you graduated. Now, I'm sure you're impressed with Baylor and Oklahoma State. You've graduated from some of the finest institutions in the world, and we have to tell people how to act with cell phone usage? When I was in Washington, D.C., we're at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier for about 45 minutes. Not one cell phone went off. They didn't have any signs over anything. Everybody knew the thing to do. We were in the Holocaust Museum. We were in places of the most somber. Nobody failed. No signs. No signs anywhere. But we have to keep saying to our people, no denim. No cell phone usage in the clubhouse. Well, every single one of you does this. It's like they say on the airlines, please put your phone in the, airplane mode and not the hide from the flight attendant mode. Why do we keep using all these negatives in this wonderful, exciting, have fun business we're in, but we're constantly talking about what you cannot do, how you cannot dress, how you must act, whether your hat's on backwards, sideways, upside down. Folks, we're supposed to be friends. We're supposed to, in fact, care for each other. We're supposed to like each other. I don't show up for dinner and see what you guys have on and go, well, you've ruined my evening. Who's got a problem then? Me or them? Me. If what you have on ruins my day, I need therapy. Many of you will never hire my company, I can assure you of that. But I can tell you, the clubs that are in fact being more open, being more gracious, being more caring, have fun, act appropriately. People know how to act. Those are the clubs that are succeeding. Whether you're $2, $3, $4, $500,000 initiation fee club, we're all just people who want to, in fact, associate with each other and be treated with respect. To me, that's outside the box thinking. Initiation fees. Folks, it's an element of financial qualifying. I'm allowed to tell this story because I was sitting on a podium on a panel with the general manager from the San Francisco Golf Club in San Francisco, California. One of the most elite clubs in the United States. Initiation fee, $85,000. What do you think the monthly dues, and there are some people in the room who know the story, Bob, be careful, who are in the audience, what do you think the monthly dues for an $85,000 initiation fee club at the San Francisco Golf Club are? Any guesses? $700. How much? $300? We have a winner, it's $300. $300 a month. Now, for all honesty, it's an individual membership, so if my wife Nancy joins us, $85,000 for Nancy and $300 a month for her. So if you look at the full family relationship, that would still be $600 a month. Their point was, you must put together $85,000 to be a member of our club. You must be a high-quality individual, but no one is ever going to, in fact, not be a member of this club because they can't afford the dues. Absolutely brilliant. It's an aspect of financial qualifying. It is purposeful discrimination, not of race, creed, color, religion, but of making sure you have the economic capabilities to be a member of a club. If you're a $60,000 initiation fee club and your dues are $20,000 a year, using simple Oklahoma State math. Instead of going to a zero initiation fee, have someone join for $60,000 and give them the first 3 years dues free. You still made $60,000. It's the same mathematical thing. But at least the person wrote a check for $60,000 to be a member of the club, made a financial commitment to the club, and the first 3 years, what do you think their club bill is going to look like? They're going to spend $60,000. We're human beings. We have reciprocal genes in our head. You give someone something, they must in fact give it back to you in return. They got a place called Las Vegas. It's amazing psychologic. Give you a free room and a nice steak. You've got to go to the gaming tables and lose a few $1,000s. They gave you a room. We've seen nationwide when people come into clubs and they have low dues, they tend to come out and spend like rock stars. But they pay no initiation fee to join the club, pay the same $20,000 dues, they're jumping in and jumping out because they have no psychological binding to the club. Stop slashing initiation fees. You need the money for capital improvements. You need it for depreciation. It should be part of the invitation application process. The initiation fees is downward pricing pressure and staging of payments. What is wrong with staging of payments? I just recently said to a client of mine, $60,000 initiation fee club, do you allow the staging of payments? Their answer was, if they ask. So a successful physician comes in and joins the club for $60,000, and he or she is supposed to say, hey, would you mind if I paid that over 3 years? Because I promise you, you're going to go to the board meeting, that same guy is going to say, he asked for what? To pay for it over 3 years. I'm not sure this guy can afford the club. You know, folks, you know, if you say to a person it's $60,000 and you can pay for it over the next 3 years, you know what they're going to say to you? Thank you. Or, here's my check. Why not you be the gracious ones? Why not you say to them that's okay? Should you charge an interest rate for that money? No. There's no cost of goods sold to initiation fees or dues. It's just 100% profits. But commonly, well, you can pay for it over 3 years, but it's at 6%. What? Welcome to the club. Friend? Some of you are laughing nervously because that's a common business practice that you're using. Stop it. Staging of payments is okay, but you don't need to stage it over 10 years. I've had clubs at $60,000 say we're going to need to extend it over 10 years. That does, in fact, show that the person who's coming in may not have the economic capabilities that you desire. 2 to 3 years at the most, and actually I'm a believer in 2 years. Pay 1/3 with application, 1/3 in a year, 1/3 in a year. So it's really 2 years, it looks like 3 payments. Investing in capital improvements. You are in the amusement park business. If you're not building bigger and faster rides, somebody else is, and they're going to go ride their rides. For those of you who have capital projects right now, aggressively for your members to vote on, congratulations. Congratulations. You have to, in fact, I have yet, you should never use never, I guess, but I have yet to have someone say, I wish we would have built our fitness center smaller. I've yet to say, I wish we wouldn't have built more bocce courts. Anybody have bocce? If I ever have the chance to stand in front, how's bocce doing at your club?
Well, we just started, but I visited a course in California where it was very successful, and they went to 4 seasons, and everybody was participating, increased the food and beverage sales. So we're trying it at our club.
It's phenomenal. Castlewood Country Club in California is a client of mine. They have 1,000 members. They have 2 golf courses, 1,000 members. They have 470 members that play bocce. It's the greatest game there is to drink. My wife is 5 foot, she's a little bitty dinky thing. She doesn't play golf because every time she hits a golf ball, she says, why do I have 13 clubs? They all go 80 yards. But she can play bocce. Got that glass of wine, and all I know is she says, it's your turn, Steve. It's a blast. You know what? Almost everybody around here's got tennis courts. Almost everybody around here's got fitness centers, commonly, back off, swimming pools and tennis courts. Bocce distinguishes you from somebody else in the area. You put in great bocce, they're not that expensive, easy to maintain. They are one heck of a family-oriented relationship. Alcohol sales increased dramatically from bocce. Squash, casual dining, eating outside, it's just amazing how easy that is. Irrigation projects. You have to, in fact, be doing capital projects. Goes back to initiation fees. If you're commanding initiation fees, you've got the funds to, in fact, pay for them. You have the ability to, in fact, make sure that you are staying up with everybody else with your renovations. Pickleball. Anybody doing pickleball? It's huge nationwide. Absolutely massive nationwide. It's a slower game of paddleball. It is easy to put together, not very expensive. Look up pickleball. It is one of the most played games in the world right now. You would be amazed how many people would, in fact, be more participating members of your club with both bocce and pickleball. You got people thinking, this is a country club, Steve. How about that golf course out there? Not everybody can play golf. Not everybody wants to play golf. They want to have things that are unique and special at their club. Many times these things that we're talking about will differentiate you from your competitors out there and the time and discretionary dollars that you are trying to steal from your members. We're in the dues business. If I hear that one more time, I'm going to slug somebody in the mouth. You are not in the dues business. You're in the taking care of people business. You're in the hospitality business. You're in the capital improvement business. I quoted Bob Dedman. Here's a quote of my own. Dues should be an end result of a well-run private club and not the imposed obligation of mathematical needs. 30 people quit the club. I guess dues have to go up. We need the money. Dues do not oftentimes equate at all to the quality of club you have. It's this mathematical need of people who left the club, so we got to raise the dues. And certainly people can afford dues. 40% of all private club members use 80% of the club. 40% of all private club members, 80% uses the club. Oftentimes I can get heads nodding. Thank you, John. I appreciate that. You know what should scare the heck out of you? 60% of all private club members are 20% users of the club. You can't run off the 40%. Ben, Craig could slap you in the face before you go home every single night. You're the president of the club, and you know what you'd say? Ouch, that hurt. See you tomorrow. You can't run those people off. You can't get rid of them. But the 60% that only play 20%, that's a letter that says, regretfully, my wife and I just don't use the club enough. Heard that one before? That corresponds to the escalation of dues beyond the comfort level of a private club client. They have the money. You need more people paying less. Escalating dues is the highest contributor to attrition rates at private clubs. Monthly versus annual dues. How many of you have, and I know I'm in the Northeast, how many of you have annual dues at your club? Raise your hand. If I ever have the chance to speak in front of you again, the next time I ask that question, I hope not one hand goes up. Monthly dues. You ever seen a car ad on TV where it's a Lexus ad or whatever? We've got beautiful Lexus cars out front. Do you see any of their leases saying that the lease is $8,400 a year? So $700 a month. If $8,400, you're all wealthy people, you drive these Lexuses all the time. If $8,400 meant nothing, they put $8,400. It must mean something. May 14th, 1977. That's when I married my wife. Greatest day of my life. November 1st, 2014. It's a line in the sand many of you have. On May 14th of every year, I don't go to my wife and say, want to go another year? She's going to say to me, you mean I can get out of this? On November 1st of every single year in the Northeast, you ask your members to remarry you. Are you crazy? Are you out of your minds? You know why you do? You're the 40%ers. You're never leaving the club. But on November 1st, and I've done some geographic and demographic analysis, in November, it's sometimes as cold here, isn't it? Sometimes there's some snow on the ground, the golf season's over, and you're coming to people and saying, honey, how much are we using the club? We got to make a decision. If we don't make, if we're on November 1st, we're either in or we're out. What do you think? That's when the letter of resignation comes in and says, you know, we just don't use it enough. Why'd you call for the question? I love my wife, but if I had to ask her every year, I wouldn't have made 38 years. Actually, it's 37, actually, the math, as I do the math in my head. Stop annual dues. Divide it by 12. Pretty simple math. Divide it by 12. You know, $1,000 a month sounds a lot less than $12,000. It sounds a lot less. It's not. But you know what? The treasurer's twitching again. He or she is saying, well, how are we going to know how much money we have in the budget this year? As businessmen and businesswomen, how many of you know exactly how much money you're going to have at your business? You do forecasts. You make modifications. Why don't you do the same thing in the private club business? Why do you have to go to the members and go, we need to know, because we need to know how to spend the money? What are you going to do, lay naked in it and roll around in it? Why do you do that's why your attrition's so high. You call for the question from the 60% that use 20% of the club, and you know what? It's hip to be frugal now. Stop it. Now, you're addicted to it. We love knowing. The first year to be a little bit harmful. First year you're going to have to get accustomed to it. Divide it by 12 and say to the members, you just keep paying dues, and whenever you want to quit the club, give us 90 days notice, but it's irrevocable. Quitting the club should be very serious. If I four-putt the last hole, lose $20 to my friends, and I come into the club manager and I say, I'm out of here. I'm quitting. They need to hand me a piece of paper that says, Steve, here you go, sign this. You've got 10 days to settle down and retract it, but if you don't, the 90th day we'll meet you at the locker and get you out of here. What are you talking about? Well, you're quitting. We're serious. You're serious? 90 days? Get out of here. We're going to replace you. We're going to be just fine. But oh, no, we can't lose that dues income. We're going to let the most poisonous person at all just sit there and tell how upset they are. They're going to quit. And you know how much it should cost them to come back to the club whenever they want to come back? Whatever that initiation fee is. If it's $60,000, say, you know, Mr. Grace, you come back. I don't care what your bylaws say. Don't pay my back dues. If I come back 6 months later, you know what it should cost to join the club? $60,000. It's serious to quit a club. But we don't take it seriously. We let them jump in, we let them jump out, we let them play with us. We have to, in fact, be principled and disciplined when it comes to joining a private club and resigning from a private club. If you had monthly dues, and Nancy and I were moving back to Kansas City in June of next year, and we had to obligate ourselves to the entire year on November 1st. But we knew we were moving back to Kansas City in June of next year. What would we do? We'd quit. If you let us quit in June, you'll at least get 6 or 7 months of dues out of us. We'll still use the club. So there's a positive side to this. Everybody says, well, you know what they'll do? Come September 1st, everybody will quit. No, they won't. If they love the club, they'll join the club. They'll just keep paying their dues monthly, just keep enjoying themselves. Reasons for leaving clubs. Left-hand side, we all know why they join the clubs. Reason for leaving clubs. Moving or relocation, 37%. Can't stop it. Club dues or assessments, 34%. Cost per round, 29%. Don't use the club as much, 30%. Those are all dues. Those are all dues. What they're saying is, cost too much to use the club. The war of two worlds. The world outside the private club industry is going at light speed. The world inside the private club industry, turtle speed. What are we asking people to do? Adapt to us. No. You adapt to them. This modern family, single members, you're going to have gay people joining your club, significant other policies. Get prepared. It's out there. It's not bad. You just need to be prepared. You need to have a thoughtful answer to those situations and issues. If you don't think they're coming, you're not reading the paper. For whom do we market? We cannot just continue to market to just people who are married anymore. In fact, there is this whole new marketplace that's out there, and we need to be prepared for it. Clubs are adapting to younger people. Those should all be 100%. Emphasis on family, 100%. Make clubs less formal, 100%. That's my typo. Introduce more technology and loosening policies. Those, in my judgment, those are National Golf Foundation statistics of their survey. In my judgment, every single one of those should be 100%. Past performance not an indication of future performance? Yes, it is. Anybody in this room that's my age or older, as we talked about, has never had to ask a member to join the club. We just had them show up. We now must say to our members, you must go out and ask your friends to join the club. Membership referrals should be natural and instinctive. It's not. Doing nothing is natural and instinctive right now. It's time for the hard sell in a polite way. No one wants to stand in front of the members and say, it's your club. It's not my club. It's not the membership director's club. It's not the membership committee's club. It's your club. If you were all part of my club right now, I would be standing in front of you saying, you need to hand select those for whom you'd like to associate. I'm going to give you the tools to be successful. I'm going to give you the tools to have a nice conversation so a person will say yes, but you need to choose it. That $300 million of initiation fees we sold, I've never sold a membership in my life, other than the people I've invited to join my own club. It is time for the hard sell to the members of their job and responsibility. It is their club. Membership directors, I use this all the time, and Kurt talked about it. They are critically important, but they do. I've got a blog I'm writing. Want to get less members at a club? Hire a membership director. What I mean by that is membership directors are critically important, highly professional, but oftentimes when you hire a membership director, people say, oh, well, I don't need to do anything. It's somebody else's job. It's Susie's job. It's Bill's job. It's their job. To me, a personal trainer, and you can tell that I don't use one, but it'd be like me getting a personal trainer and me eating donuts while they do crunches. Why am I not losing weight? Look how hard you're working out. The membership director helps facilitate the sale of a membership. They help set goals, give you plans, tools, encouragement, evaluation, and feedback. You sell the membership, they close the deal. You invite the person. Your members invite the person. They close the deal. Correlations to financial health are all obvious there. Active referral program, family utilization, household income. 90% of all private club members live within 15 miles of their club, and strategic plans. The future of the private club industry is bright. And here is how you can have your own renaissance. You have to deal with reality. You need to be willing and open to change. Not just crazy change for change's sake, but logical change that makes logical sense at your club. You need discipline. You need some better attitude at your club. You need pride at your club, instilling pride. You need that messaging. Messaging in the private club industry is so bad. You need to be proactive, and the efforts must reflect that. Private clubs are succeeding all across the United States and in this geographical area. There are some who are struggling. Those who are struggling know who they are and probably saw a number of the things that they're doing or lack of things that they're doing. Those who are succeeding see what they're doing and are being more successful. There is, in fact, a renaissance in the private club industry. And my question to you is, will you rise like a phoenix and continue to be successful and have all boats rise with the tide? Or, as Kurt pointed out, will you be one of the dysfunctional clubs that continues to be a statistic in the industry? Ladies and gentlemen, I would be happy to send you my slide deck if you would like it. I don't know if I have any time for any questions. Do you have any questions that I could answer quickly? Sir?
A quick question. How do you get members to buy into the idea that it's their obligation?
How do you get members to buy into their obligation? It's one of the toughest things of member-owned clubs. Member-owned clubs eat their own. No matter how successful you are of standing in front of the members, they tend to, in fact, not be open to those ideas. And I'm not saying hire me, but oftentimes an outsider needs to stand in front of the members. I've had club presidents, when I've stood in front of the membership and said, this is your job, I've had club presidents whisper in my ear, you just earned your fee. Because they'll listen to an outsider. But if you don't use an outsider, you just need to be prepared and be disciplined to stand in front of them and say, we need your help, this is your job, and not allow the loud mouth that says, it's not my job, it's somebody else's job, and you need to politely tell them that they're wrong. Whose else's job could it be? It needs to be messaging, and it needs to be consistent and constant. The second you give into the phrase, "I don't know anybody," that is the default answer, and that's factually not true. They know tons of people. But it's easier to say, "I just don't know anybody." And you go, well, okay. You have to challenge them that they do, in fact, know people, and show them what success is going to bring. Other questions that I can answer? Yes?
Do you believe that giving members incentives to bring in new members works?
How opposed are you to that?
Do I believe in giving incentives to new members? Absolutely. Do I believe in giving incentives to the members? Absolutely. If this thing just naturally occurred, you wouldn't even be at this session. I have people say to me, "Steve, you're awfully generous with our money." I know how to give away as much as possible to get people to act, as little as possible to have you be successful. I can't sit there and blurt out necessary numbers because every situation is customized. And I'm saying not hiring me, but it's customized. But you have to think about people, folks. If a person joins a private club and the initiation fee is $50,000, and the dues are in fact $10,000 a year, the average length of membership is 10 years. The average spending is probably twice as much as dues. That's 30,000 times 10, that's 300,000. A person can bring you $350,000 in new member income for bringing in one new member. And we're not willing to give them anything? Well, that demeans our club. No, you know what demeans your club? Continue to have your membership roster go down and down and down, not being able to do any capital projects and being embarrassed about your club. That's demeaning. But people say, well, it's demeaning to me that you've asked us to do that and you're going to give me something. I'll tell you what, we didn't sell $300 million worth of memberships by just saying, go out and do it. Go out and do it. Sherwood Country Club, $200,000 initiation fee club, Thousand Oaks, California. Dues of $100,000 a month. We gave $200 a month for 24 months to the members if they bring someone in. $200 a month for 2 years. It was win-win. You know what the membership market is just two people talking and someone saying to the other person, "No kidding?"
Should the argument has been made the applicant gets it, not the member?
Well, if you're gonna get something and I get nothing, I'm gonna go play golf. I'm just a human being. And so, okay, you're gonna you want to join? You get $200 a month. Okay, I guess not. Let's go ahead. I'm gonna play golf. I'm sorry, and again, most of you are not going to hire me, but I believe in human nature. People, why do they keep this? If you get $100 for doing Cox Television or Dish, whichever one it is, and then you tell somebody else and they get $100 off their bill, it works. It's not demeaning. Probably some of you in the room have done the same thing and given your account number out.
Steve, a question back here.
Do you have a point of view around initiation and dues as it relates to junior members or
Yes.
legacy members?
Yes. Charge low initiation fees, get them in. We need their 37 years of them being members of the club. I believe dues for juniors, young executives, should go up to age 40. From age 21 to 30, it should be about 60% of full dues. 30 to 40, 80%, these are simple numbers. The initiation fee is not mathematical, but if it's $50,000 to join as a big boy or big girl, make it $20,000, $30,000 for a younger person. Give them time to pay it off, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. You want them for the next 37 years. You're going to make the money on the dues that they in fact pay. So yes, I believe that they should get a significant reduction. Legacy should probably pay about half of what the initiation fees are for a full individual, sons, daughters, etc. And dues should be considerably lower because we want to have that second, third generation in. I feel very strongly about that. And most clubs don't do it. Other questions? Folks, thank you so much. I apologize for going over my time.